The crowd parted like the Red Sea as Will Anderson dropped to his knees beside the unconscious woman sprawled on the mall's polished floor, his heart hammering against his ribs. Security guards were shouting into radios, shoppers were gasping and pointing, but all Will could focus on was the pale face before him and the absence of movement in her chest. "Someone call 911. Will shouted, his EMT training from years ago kicking in as he leaned down to check for breathing. Nothing. He placed his fingers against her neck, searching for a pulse. Faint, but there. His 7-year-old daughter, Lily, stood frozen nearby, clutching the small bag containing the single pair of sneakers they'd saved for months to buy. Her eyes were wide with fear. "Lily, stay right there, honey. Daddy has to help this lady," Will said firmly but gently. Will tilted the woman's head back, cleared her airway, and began chest compressions. 1, 2, 3, 4. He counted silently, applying steady pressure. The woman was elegantly dressed in a tailored suit, her dark hair fanned out beneath her. Will noticed the expensive watch on her wrist and the leather designer handbag that had fallen beside her, but none of that mattered now. After 30 compressions, he delivered 2 rescue breaths, his lips meeting hers briefly. He resumed compressions, sweat beading on his forehead. The mall seemed to fall silent around him as he worked. "Come on," he murmured. "Come on, breathe." After what felt like an eternity but was probably less than 2 minutes, the woman suddenly gasped, her chest heaving as air rushed into her lungs. Her eyes fluttered open, deep brown eyes that locked onto his blue ones with startling intensity. "You're okay," Will said soothingly. "Help is on the way, just stay still." "What happened?" she whispered, her voice raspy. "You collapsed. I performed CPR," a flash of something embarrassment. Gratitude crossed her face. "You saved my life." Will shook his head modestly. "Just did what anyone would do." The paramedics arrived then, pushing through the crowd with a stretcher. Will moved back, giving them room to work. He felt a small hand slip into his and looked down to see Lily, her face pale but composed. "Did you fix the lady, Daddy?" she asked. "I helped her, sweetheart. The doctors will take care of her now." As the paramedics prepared to transport the woman, she suddenly reached out, gripping Will's wrist with surprising strength. "Your name," she said, "please." "Will Anderson." "Thank you, Will Anderson. I'm Olivia Davies." Then they wheeled her away, leaving Will standing in the middle of the mall with his daughter's hand in his, watching as the crowd dispersed, returning to their shopping as if nothing had happened. "Come on, Lily Pad," he said, using his nickname for her. "Let's go home." He had no way of knowing that the woman whose life he'd just saved was the CEO of Davies Enterprises, one of the largest tech companies in the country. No way of knowing that she would remember his name. No way of knowing that their paths would cross again. Will's apartment was quiet when they returned, save for the persistent drip from the kitchen faucet he hadn't been able to fix yet. He'd been meaning to, but plumbing supplies cost money, and money was something Will Anderson didn't have in abundance since his wife died 3 years ago. As a freelance carpenter, his income was inconsistent at best. Some months were good renovations and custom furniture pieces, bringing in enough to cover rent, food, and maybe even put a little aside. Other months were lean, forcing him to dip into the meager savings he was trying to build for Lily's future. Today had been a special day. Lily had outgrown her sneakers, and they'd finally saved enough for a new pair. The trip to the mall had been a rare treat. And then the woman Olivia Davies had collapsed. "Daddy, is the lady going to be okay?" Lily asked as she put her new shoes carefully in her closet. "I think so, sweetheart. The paramedics will take good care of her. You helped her breathe again. You're like a superhero." Will smiled, his heart swelling with love for his daughter. Even in their modest circumstances, she found reasons to be proud of him. "I'm no superhero, just remembered some training I had a long time ago, before I was born." "Yes, before you were born." "When I was younger, I was an EMT, that's someone who helps people in emergencies, before I started making furniture." Lily considered this. "I think I like that you make furniture. You built my bed and my bookshelf." "That I did." Will ruffled her blonde hair so like her mother's. "Now how about some dinner? Spaghetti tonight, with the red sauce and not too many vegetables," Lily negotiated, a serious expression on her small face. A few vegetables, Will countered. Growing girls need nutrition, deal. As Will prepared their simple meal, his mind drifted back to the woman at the mall, Olivia Davies. There had been something in her eyes when she looked at him, a depth, an intelligence that had struck him even in that brief exchange. He wondered if she was all right, what had caused her to collapse. Then he shook his head, dismissing the thought. Their worlds couldn't be further apart and their paths would never cross again. He was wrong. 3 days later, Will was in his small workshop behind the apartment building, sanding a custom coffee table for a client, when his phone rang. He didn't recognize the number but answered anyway. Potential clients often called out of the blue. Will Anderson, the voice was familiar though he couldn't quite place it. Yes, this is Will. This is Olivia Davies from the mall. Will's hand stilled on the sandpaper. Miss Davies. Are you all right? Thanks to you, yes. The doctors say I had a severe allergic reaction to something I ate. If you hadn't been there. She paused. I'd like to thank you properly. Would you be willing to meet me for coffee? Will hesitated. He had work to finish, and babysitters were an expense he rarely indulged in. I understand if you're busy, Olivia added quickly, but I'd really like the chance to express my gratitude in person. No, it's not that, Will said. I'm a single dad. My daughter, she's welcome too, of course. The little girl who was with you at the mall. Lily, yes. Please, Mr. Anderson, just a quick coffee. Tomorrow afternoon, perhaps. Will found himself agreeing, and they arranged to meet at a cafe near his workshop. After hanging up, he stared at his phone, bewildered by the turn of events. The following day, Will and Lily arrived at the cafe 10 minutes early. He debated what to wear before settling on clean jeans and his least worn button-down shirt. Lily wore a flowery dress she usually saved for special occasions, insisting this was important. They spotted Olivia immediately. Even in the casual setting of the cafe, she stood out, her posture, her clothes, the way she surveyed the room with quiet confidence. When she saw them, she smiled and waved them over. Mr. Anderson, thank you for coming, she said, rising to greet them. And you must be Lily. I'm Olivia. Lily shook the offered hand solemnly. Are you feeling better now? Daddy helped you breathe again. He did indeed, Olivia said, her eyes meeting Will's over Lily's head. Your daddy is a hero. Will felt a flush creep up his neck. Please call me Will, and it really wasn't anything special. It was to me. They sat down, and Olivia insisted on ordering hot chocolate for Lily, coffee for the adults, and a plate of pastries to share. Will noticed that despite her obvious wealth, the tailored blazer, the subtle but expensive jewelry, Olivia seemed genuinely warm, not at all condescending. So, she said once their drinks arrived, tell me about yourselves. Will gave her the condensed version. Former EMT, now a carpenter specializing in custom furniture, widowed 3 years ago when Lily was 4, doing his best to make ends meet. Daddy makes the most beautiful tables, Lily chimed in, and bookshelves and chairs. He made a special table for Mrs. Hernandez with birds carved into it. Olivia's eyes lit up. You're a woodworker, that's fascinating. It pays the bills, most months, Will added with a self-deprecating smile. I'd love to see your work sometime. There was a brief pause and Will felt compelled to fill it. What about you? What do you do? Olivia hesitated, and Will realized she was deciding how much to share. I run a company, she said finally, Davies Enterprises. The name sounded vaguely familiar, but Will couldn't place it. What kind of company? We develop software and technology solutions. Boring stuff, really. She turned to Lily. Do you like school, Lily? Will watched as his daughter chatted animatedly with Olivia about her second-grade class, her favorite books, and her dream of having a dog someday. Olivia listened with genuine interest, asking questions and laughing at Lily's earnest observations. There was no trace of the corporate executive in her manner, just a warm, engaging woman who seemed to genuinely enjoy his daughter's company. As their coffee date stretched to nearly an hour, Will found himself increasingly drawn to Olivia. She was beautiful, yes, but it was more than that. There was a sharp intelligence in her eyes, a quick wit in her conversation, and a kindness in how she interacted with Lily. Finally, Olivia glanced at her watch. I should let you two get back to your day. But before I go, she reached into her purse and pulled out a business card, handing it to Will. My private number is on the back. I'd really like to see your workshop sometime. Will took the card, surprised. Sure, anytime. And perhaps dinner, just the two of us. She said it casually, but Will detected a hint of uncertainty in her voice. Yes, I'd like that. Olivia's smile widened. Wonderful, call me. After she left, Will stared at the business card in his hand. Davies Enterprises CEO Olivia Davies. A quick internet search later revealed that Davies Enterprises was a Fortune 500 company with revenues in the billions. Olivia Davies was not just successful, she was one of the most powerful businesswomen in the country, and she wanted to have dinner with him. Will nearly talked himself out of calling her a dozen times over the next few days. What could a CEO possibly want with a struggling carpenter? Was this just her way of expressing gratitude, charity, perhaps? But there had been something in the way she looked at him, something genuine that made him pick up the phone and dial her number. Dinner was arranged for Friday night at a restaurant Will could never have afforded on his own. He asked his neighbor, Mrs. Hernandez, the one with the bird table to watch Lily for the evening. A date, Mrs. Hernandez had asked, eyes twinkling. Just dinner with. A friend, Will had replied, though the word friend felt inadequate. The restaurant was upscale but not pretentious. Olivia was already seated when Will arrived, wearing a simple black dress that somehow looked more elegant than anything he'd ever seen. He suddenly felt self-conscious in his best shirt and the only tie he owned. Will, she said warmly, standing to greet him. I'm so glad you called. I almost didn't, he admitted as they sat. Once I realized who you are, Olivia's smile faltered slightly. Does it bother you what I do? Not at all. It just seems like we're from different worlds. Perhaps that's what makes this interesting. Their conversation flowed easily after that. Olivia asked about his carpentry, and Will found himself passionately describing his work, the feeling of transforming raw wood into something beautiful and functional, the satisfaction of creating pieces that would become part of someone's home for generations. In turn, he learned about Olivia's journey to becoming CEO, starting as a programmer, working her way up through the company her father had founded, taking over when he retired, and transforming it from a modest software firm into a tech giant. It's not always glamorous, she confessed. Most days I'm buried in meetings and financial reports, but I love the challenge, the problem solving. You built something impressive, Will said sincerely. So have you. When Will looked surprised, she continued, You've built a life for your daughter, created beautiful things with your hands, kept going despite loss. That's no small achievement, Will. The evening stretched on, their conversation moving from careers to childhood memories, favorite books, and dreams for the future. Will was surprised to find how easy it was to talk to Olivia, how she listened without judgment, shared without pretense. When the check came, Will reached for it automatically, but Olivia's hand covered his. Please, let me, I invited you. Will hesitated, his pride warring with practicality. Next time, he said finally. I'll cook for you. Olivia's eyes brightened. Next time, I'd like that. Outside the restaurant, standing under the warm glow of a streetlight, Will found himself reluctant to say goodnight. Olivia seemed to feel the same, lingering beside him. Thank you for tonight, she said softly. I should be thanking you. Will. There was a vulnerability in her voice he hadn't heard before. May I kiss you goodnight? In answer, Will stepped closer, one hand gently cupping her cheek as he leaned in. The kiss was soft, tentative at first, then deepening as Olivia's arms slid around his neck. When they finally pulled apart, both were slightly breathless. I'll call you tomorrow, Will promised. I'll be waiting. The next several weeks passed in a whirlwind. Will invited Olivia to his small apartment for a home-cooked dinner, where Lily insisted on helping set the table with their mismatched dishes, and showing Olivia her collection of seashells from their one beach trip 2 summers ago. Olivia, in turn, took them both to the botanical gardens, the science museum, and a puppet show that had Lily giggling uncontrollably. She never flaunted her wealth, but didn't hide it either, treating them to experiences Will could never have afforded while respecting his boundaries about accepting direct financial help. One rainy Sunday afternoon, while Lily was at a friend's birthday party, Olivia visited Will's workshop. She watched in fascination as he demonstrated his techniques, showing her how to feel the grain of the wood, how to sand with the grain rather than against it. "Try it," he encouraged, placing a sanding block in her hand and guiding her movements. Olivia laughed at her awkward attempts. "I'm more used to keyboards than carpentry tools." "You're doing fine," Will assured her, his arms around her as he guided her hands. The closeness was intoxicating, and soon the sanding block was forgotten as Olivia turned in his arms, her lips finding his. Later, sitting on his worn couch with mugs of tea, Olivia broached a subject they'd been dancing around. "Will, I've been thinking. There's a furniture design competition next month. The prize is substantial, and the exposure could bring you new clients." Will stiffened. "Did you research this for me? Is that a problem?" "I don't need charity, Olivia," her eyes flashed. "It's not charity to want someone you care about to succeed. Your work is exceptional. You deserve recognition." Will sighed, running a hand through his hair. "I'm sorry, it's just. I've been handling things on my own for so long. I understand, but caring about someone means supporting their dreams. That's all I want to do." Her sincerity melted his resistance. "Thank you. I'll look into the competition." As autumn turned to winter, their relationship deepened. Will entered the competition with a coffee table inspired by ocean waves, its surface undulating in gentle curves that showcased the natural beauty of the maple wood. He won second place, which came with a cash prize and, more importantly, commissions from 3 new clients who had attended the exhibition. Will's business began to grow, allowing him a bit more financial breathing room. He was able to fix the leaky faucet, buy Lily new winter boots without stretching the budget, and even start setting aside money for her college fund again. Olivia became a regular presence in their lives. She joined them for movie nights, helped Lily with science projects, and sometimes worked on her laptop at Will's kitchen table while he prepared dinner, creating a domestic routine that felt surprisingly natural. But their different worlds sometimes collided in ways that highlighted the gap between them. Olivia occasionally had to cancel plans for last-minute business trips or emergency meetings. At a gallery opening for local artisans where Will was displaying his work, Olivia was recognized by several business associates, leading to curious glances when they realized she was dating one of the craftsmen. The most challenging moment came when Will and Lily were invited to Olivia's company holiday party. Will spent hours agonizing over what to wear, finally settling on a new suit he could barely afford. Lily wore a dress Olivia had bought her after much negotiation with Will, who had initially resisted the gift. The party was held in the grand ballroom of a downtown hotel, with ice sculptures, a live band, and waiters circulating with champagne and hors d'oeuvres. Will felt out of place among the executives and their spouses, all discussing stock options and vacation homes. "Relax," Olivia whispered, squeezing his hand. "They're just people. People who run Fortune 500 companies," Will muttered. "Not all of them. And besides, none of them can craft a dining table that brings tears to a client's eyes." Throughout the evening, Olivia proudly introduced Will to her colleagues, emphasizing his artistry and craftsmanship. Most were polite, some genuinely interested, a few condescending. Will did his best to engage while keeping an eye on Lily, who was happily exploring the children's activity area the company had set up. During a moment alone at their table, while Olivia was speaking with a board member, Lily climbed onto Will's lap. "Daddy, do you love Olivia?" She asked with a child's directness. Will was taken aback. "Why do you ask, sweetheart?" "Because you look at her the way you used to look at Mommy in the pictures, and because I love her too. She makes the best pancakes, and she knows all the dinosaur names, and she makes you smile." Out of the mouths of babes, Will realized with sudden clarity that he did love Olivia deeply, completely. Despite their different backgrounds, despite the complications, he had fallen in love with her intelligence, her kindness, her strength. "Yes, Lily Pad, I do love her." "Good," Lily said with satisfaction. "Can she live with us? Her apartment is bigger, but my friends are near our house," Will chuckled. "It's not quite that simple, honey." "Why not? Grown-ups always make things complicated." Before Will could respond, Olivia returned to the table. "What are you two conspiring about?" she asked with a smile. "Just discussing real estate," Will said with a wink at Lily. Later that night, after putting an exhausted Lily to bed, Will and Olivia sat on his couch, her head resting on his shoulder. "Thank you for coming tonight," she said. "I know it wasn't easy. Your world is different from mine." Olivia sat up, turning to face him. "My world is wherever you and Lily are." She took a deep breath. "Will, these past few months have been the happiest of my life. Before I met you, I was just existing, working, succeeding, but not really living. You and Lily have shown me what matters." Will's heart hammered in his chest. "Olivia, let me finish. I'm not expecting anything. I know this is complicated. Our lives are different, and you have Lily to think about, but I want you to know that I'm in love with you, completely, hopelessly in love with you." Will reached for her hands, holding them in his. "I love you too, and so does Lily. She just told me so tonight." Olivia's eyes widened. "She did. She also asked if you could move in with us, though she acknowledged your apartment is bigger." Olivia laughed, tears glistening in her eyes. "Practical child. She gets that from her mother," Will said with a smile. Then, more seriously, "I don't know what happens next. I don't know how to navigate a relationship with someone whose annual bonus probably exceeds my lifetime earnings." "We figure it out together," Olivia said simply. Day by day, as winter turned to spring, they did just that, figuring it out, compromise by compromise. Will's business continued to grow, his reputation spreading through word of mouth and the occasional discreet recommendation from Olivia's well-connected friends. He was able to rent a larger workshop space, hire an assistant, and begin teaching woodworking classes on weekends. Olivia made changes too, delegating more responsibilities at work to create space in her life for Will and Lily. She learned to distinguish between true emergencies that required her immediate attention and issues that could wait until morning. In April, they took Lily to Disney World, a trip Will had always dreamed of providing for his daughter but had never been able to afford. He insisted on paying for their flights and accommodations, while Olivia covered the park tickets and meals. Watching Lily's face light up as she met her favorite princesses, Will felt a contentment he hadn't experienced since before his wife's death. That night, after Lily had fallen asleep, exhausted from the day's adventures, Will and Olivia sat on the balcony of their hotel room, looking out at the distant fireworks. "I've been thinking," Olivia said, her voice careful, "about the future." Will felt a momentary tightness in his chest. Was this the beginning of the end? Had she realized that their worlds were too different after all? "I've been offered a position on the board of a nonprofit that supports arts education in schools," she continued. "It would mean stepping back from day-to-day operations at Davies Enterprises. I'd still be CEO, but in more of an advisory capacity." Will stared at her. "You'd give up running your company, but you've worked so hard. Not give up. Evolve. The company is stable, my executive team is strong, and I've been doing the same thing for over a decade." She turned to face him fully. "And I've realized there are other things I want in my life. More time, balance, a family." The word family hung in the air between them, full of possibility. "I don't want you to change your life for me," Will said quietly. "I'm not. I'm changing it for me, for the life I want. Which, if you'll have me, includes you and Lily." Olivia reached into her pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. "I know this is unconventional, and if you're not ready, I understand. But I love you, Will Anderson. I love your daughter. I love the life we've been building. And I want to make it official." She opened the box to reveal a simple but elegant titanium ring. "Will you marry me?" Will's breath caught in his throat. This brilliant, successful, beautiful woman wanted to spend her life with him, a struggling carpenter with a second-hand couch and mounting school expenses for his daughter. "On one condition," he said finally. Olivia raised an eyebrow. "Which is?" "That you let me buy your ring I've been saving." Her smile was radiant. "Deal. Then yes. Yes, I will marry you, Olivia Davies." They were married 6 months later in a ceremony that reflected both their worlds, elegant but unpretentious, held in the botanical gardens where they'd had one of their first dates. Lily was the flower girl, proudly scattering rose petals down the aisle before taking her place beside her father at the altar. Olivia wore a simple white dress, her only jewelry a pair of earrings that had belonged to Will's late wife, a gift from Lily, who had solemnly presented them the night before the wedding. "Mommy would want you to have these," she had told Olivia. Daddy says she'd be happy we found you. Will had crafted their wedding rings himself, carving them from the same piece of rich cherry wood, then having them cast in gold. Inside each ring, he had engraved the words, "Every breath with you." After the ceremony, they moved into a new home, not Olivia's luxury apartment or Will's small rental, but a place they chose together. It had a spacious workshop for Will, a home office for Olivia, a garden for Lily, and room for the family to grow, and grow it did. A year after their wedding, they welcomed twins, a boy and a girl, and Lily embraced her role as big sister with enthusiasm and pride. Will's business flourished, his pieces now sought after by collectors and featured in design magazines. He opened a small gallery and workshop where he showcased not only his own work, but that of other talented craftspeople who needed exposure. Olivia thrived in her new role, dividing her time between strategic oversight of Davies' enterprises and her passionate advocacy for arts education. She found unexpected fulfillment in helping young people discover the joy of creation, perhaps because she saw in them the same spark that had first drawn her to Will. Sometimes, during quiet moments watching their children play in the garden or sharing coffee on the porch swing, Will had built they would marvel at the unlikely path that had brought them together. "If I hadn't had that allergic reaction," Olivia would say, "if you hadn't been at the mall that day. If I hadn't remembered my EMT training." "Every breath with you," they would say in unison, fingers intertwined, grateful for that day in the mall when a struggling dad had given CPR to a woman he didn't know was a CEO falling for him.